Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Two Asian Blokes podcast, a podcast where we talk about Asian pop culture, films, TV shows, comic books, video games, music, food, whatever we're feeling at the time, really. My name is Dan with H, and with me, as always, my co-host, Tavi. Hi, Tavi.
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a completely new session with a completely new vessel that has alcohol in it. This time it's a Shiraz.
Oh, you got a Shiraz this time.
Yeah, okay. I know, right? It's because I ran out of whiskey, so I've got this bottle of Shiraz.
Yes.
So worst of 2021. Surprisingly, I haven't watched too many shit movies this year when I was going through my letterbox.
Yeah.
What do you reckon for 2021?
In general, it's pretty hard to classify like a bad movie because, you know, there are some movies that are so bad that they're good. You know, there are some movies where like it might not be technically good, but it's something that you personally enjoy because you're a fan of the genre. You know, so like, again, you know, taste is subjective. For this list, I think we're talking about films that we personally have not really enjoyed. On any level, I guess. Well, maybe one of the films on my list is like of the so bad it's good kind of vibe. But yeah, I think in general it's hard to classify a bad movie, but 2021 is probably like the same with our top movies list. I said, you know, it's probably about the same as every other year, I reckon.
Yeah. I think our worst of list is a little bit of less of a mystery than our best.
Yeah, because you're very vocal whenever you don't like a movie. Whenever you don't like a movie, like, I know about it.
Every time I'm just like, this is just terrible. Like, yeah.
I mean, a lot of the fun of watching a bad film is talking about it to someone afterwards, you know, and kind of describing why it's bad. So, I mean, they're not a total loss, even if you do watch these films, because, yeah, like sharing your experience of even a bad thing can be quite a fun experience in itself.
Yeah, it is. People like to gossip about bad shit, even including me. So, you know, I mean, that's why we're doing this episode.
So I think it'll be a different vibe to our previous episode, but I feel like it's going to be a fun discussion nonetheless.
Yeah. It's funny, our most successful podcast episode is us reviewing a bad product.
Yes,
so I guess it's, you know, hate is what brings the views, right?
Apparently. But yeah, like, again, you know, we on this podcast we try to stay on the more positive side. You know, we're just making fun of these movies. If you like these movies, you know, fair play. You know, we're not right about everything. For this list, again, like our top 10 list, we probably won't do spoilers. If we do spoil stuff, it'll be very light spoilers. So yeah, don't worry too much when you're listening to this in case you feel like you want to watch these films. I don't think anything we say here will detract from your enjoyment of them.
Or disenjoyment of them. Shall we just get straight into it, right?
Yeah, okay. Start with my number 10. I'm going to start us off with a very bland film. It's Without Remorse.
Without Remorse?
Starring Michael B. Jordan.
Oh, I think this was the Amazon Prime one.
It was on Amazon Prime, yeah.
And it was written by the author.
Yeah, it's a Tom Clancy, based on a Tom Clancy novel.
Yeah.
So, right on the offset, I'm going to say I'm not a huge Tom Clancy fan. I know some people out there like his books, but I've always found them to be a bit like CIA propaganda-y kind of thing. The main characters are always quite bland and generic. Like probably the most enjoyment I've gotten out of his name or something with his name on it is like the Rainbow Six games. If you remember have you ever played a Rainbow Six game?
Yeah. I played the one on PS, and I've always just seen gameplay of the subsequent ones. I know that Rainbow Six Siege is really popular, like in the competitive scene. But yeah, no, I haven't read any of his books.
Well, I mean, yeah, they're all kind of military based, espionage kind of stuff, like actiony spy thrillers. Like the Rainbow Six games, if you've played them, you don't really play them for the story, right? You play them for the action and the gun play, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I played Splinter Cell. I like the Splinter Cell series.
Does that have a strong story?
The gameplay is really fun. Story, it's all right. Like I couldn't even recall the story and tell you what it's about, but without remorse.
So it's basically what you've just said. Like it's all right. It's all right, but you don't really take anything away from it. It's like it's a generic action film. There's not really any imagination to it. Michael B. Jordan is as charismatic as ever, but he can't save this film. Like I think his character's name is like John Kelly or something super generic. There's just a lack of personality in this film throughout.
So would you say that it's fairly like competently shot?
You know what? It might be well shot, but I can't tell you because I don't remember anything from the film. It didn't leave an impression. There wasn't any point where I was like, oh, that was pretty good. It was just like, it was generic to the point of, why bother kind of thing. I feel like there was probably a bit too much setting up of a franchise in this film.
Okay, yeah. They wanted to set up another espionage action thriller like Bourne.
Yeah.
Because, I remember seeing the ads and stuff for it on Amazon Prime, and it just, like, looked very generic. And I'm like, I'm probably not going to watch this. There's a revenge theme in this movie or something?
His wife is murdered at the start or something. So, and then he's sent to prison for her murder, maybe. And then once he like breaks out and he tries to get revenge and track down whoever is responsible. So there is that, I guess. But it just turns into just something that is very easily forgotten.
It sounds like a movie that I'm pretty sure the Koreans have done a better job of somewhere. And I'm a fan of action films in general. So if like an action film doesn't leave an impression with me, I find it hard to believe that it's going to make any connection with other viewers. Because I got a lot of patience for them in general. But this film just was boring. Yeah. No, I don't think a lot of people watched. I don't think this was a very successsul movie. So
I don't think it's going to be the next Bourne franchise.
It's going to be the first and last time you'll ever see. You won't even remember it.
And I like Michael B. Jordan, but
he's a great actor. Yeah. He's just bland movie.
Try something else, I guess.
My number 10 is a bit of a weird one because like I kind of enjoyed the movie, but there's a lot of elements that I didn't like. And number 10 for me is Free Guy.
Oh, okay.
The concept is there's basically Ryan Reynolds plays an NPC who kind of discovers he's in a video game and a player tries to help him escape, I guess. I really like the premise of this movie. And I love movies that explore that theme of like, is AI like, human?
Westworld,
kind of
basically.
Yeah, Westworld. I was thinking more along the lines of Her, like the Joaquin Phoenix movie.
Sure, yeah.
And I feel like this movie is like a lesser version of that movie. But like that comparison aside, I didn't like the look of this movie. It looked very, like the color palette just kind of looked very flat. And because it's like a comedy, so it's got that kind of cheap comedy look that you see in comedy films where the lighting is just like very basic. Like they make the lighting shit on purpose because it's a comedy. Sure. Is what, you kind of see in these films. But this movie is very generic with its themes, and there's so many Gen Z elements in this movie that I'm just like,
I don't want to compare it to the Emoji Movie, but it's towing a line that's pretty close.
I wasn't even thinking that. I haven't seen the Emoji Movie.
It's just not very timeless, I would say.
Yeah, just all the appearances from YouTubers, and because it's fine. The movie's fine. I just didn't really like it. It just didn't. I don't know, it didn't connect. I couldn't really go into why I didn't like it without talking about the end of the movie. But I'll just say that the end of the movie kind of discredits what the movie is trying to say about like AI life. And when I saw it, I was kind of like, it's kind of like with Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman movie.
Shoots itself in the foot a bit.
It shoots itself in the foot. It's like, it could be a moment where the character kind of comes to grips with something or learns something, or like there is some kind of bigger question, but it's just like, nah, it's just this plain basic message. And I was just like, have you seen Free Guy?
Yeah. It's a bit of an odd one because, like you said, the themes in it, the whole like AI sentience theme, that's always it's usually handled in a pretty adult way, like in Westworld or in like
that's true actually,
or in Her. You know, like there are comedic elements, but it's usually like the subject matter is usually tackled in a more adult and cerebral way. Whereas Free Guy, it's like they take that theme and they just add in a whole bunch of fart jokes to around it.
I think just you talking about those other movies makes me realize why I don't like this movie. It's because like why wouldn't I just go watch Ghost in the Shell or Westworld or Her? Like,
but some people, that's what they like. They just want some cheap laughs, I guess. And Ryan Reynolds is just being Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds. I mean, like, there is no like bad acting in this movie. Like everyone does their job. It's just I don't know. It's just didn't click with me. So there why it's number 10.
It's all right. Let's move on to number 9, which is again just all right for me. Black Widow.
I didn't watch this movie. You told me that it was just all right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, do you even need to do a synopsis of this movie? I feel like 99% of the people know the story.
Sure, it's Black Widow doing Black Widow stuff.
That's it. That's what I write on the blurb. Black Widow doing Black Widow stuff.
Well, I mean, they do introduce some new characters. One of whom is the new Black Widow, I guess. So if you're trying to keep up to date with what's going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's one of those films that you're kind of obligated to watch. But that's not really my cup of tea, is, watching a film for the sake of being up to date with what's happening in the universe. That's kind of where universes lose me a bit.
Because you just want to watch an independent story. I think I'm in the same boat with you on that.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm being held hostage and being forced to watch these films. Like, if you don't watch this film, you're not going to understand the next film, kind of thing.
No, I just watch them. You just get it.
You get it. I think the MCU is pretty good at making their films like, their own thing. But the problem with Black Widow for me in general is that if you've watched Endgame, you know what happens to Black Widow. Like, you kind of get to see the end of her arc. And this Black Widow movie is a prequel. So the fact that like where the character ends up, it kind of removes all the stakes from this film. Because
is this movie set before the entire MCU universe, or is it set in
it's set after Civil War, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Before
Infinity War, but after Civil War.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for this movie, and to its credit, it looked alright. It looked kind of like a spy thriller. And I like Florence Pugh as well. I think she's a great actress. I really liked her. I first saw her in Midsommar. She's really good, and she's really good in Little Women as well.
I think all of that performances in this, Rachel Weisz, David Harbour, and Florence Pugh, are really good. I think the chemistry that they have on screen with each other is really good, and that's like a strength of the film, but it is also at the same time quite generic.
Does it suffer from what we've called like the Marvel curse, which is like too many jokes and dramatic scenes played off for laughs? Does it suffer from that?
It does, probably not as much as Shang-Chi.
Oh yeah, right. We should probably to retcon our top 10 list. 10 to 1 is just Shang-Chi. I'm a good Asian.
I think that goes without saying, Tavi, is Shang-Chi is better than all the films on that list.
Yeah, Shang-Chi is the best film in the universe, and it's going to win all the Oscars, which apparently it's being pushed for.
No, Shang-Chi is all right.
Yeah, we were talking about it the other day, and when we were prepping for the best of list, we were kind of like, yeah, Shang-Chi is pretty average. Like,
I think, like, for me, they're fairly interchangeable, as are a lot of these Marvel, like, standalone films. But the thing that irks me about Black Widow in particular is, like I mentioned before, we already know where she ends up, so less stakes involved. And the other one is, I don't really like what they did with the character Taskmaster. I know you're not really a comic book person, but the portrayal in the film is quite different to the character's portrayal in comic books. Like, in the comic books, Taskmaster is this person with the mutant ability of photographic muscle memory. So basically, he can watch somebody do something and copy it perfectly. Just from watching them do it, So because of that, he's a master of all kinds of hand-to-hand combat, because he can just watch somebody else do it, and then he's a master of it already. And he uses this ability to go toe-to-toe with some of, like, the best fighters in Marvel, and he becomes like a trainer for a lot of heroes and villains, because, he can kind of, like, coach people to do these actions as well. And the character himself has a lot of personality. Like, he's kind of wisecracking. He's kind of like this guy that just kind of is trying to get the job done. Like, he's a merc, basically. But yeah, in Black Widow, they kind of change it so that the character's just like a brainwashed cyborg, basically. Stripping the character of all kind of, like, personality.
That's a little bit lame. Yeah. I think I read some reviews or heard some reviews that it was the villain that let this movie down, which is what happens a lot in Marvel films. Just uninteresting villains. I guess they're not going to use Taskmaster then. Taskmaster.
I hope they do. Maybe a different version of Taskmaster, maybe, but because it is a good character in the comics. And I think he's been featured in the games as well, or, like, at least one of the games. Maybe the one that wasn't well received. I don't know. Yeah. Don't know if they'll give him another go.
I mean, I was always planning on watching this movie, but I kind of just didn't.
I would watch Hawkeye, the TV show, instead.
Oh, yeah, you said it's pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm probably not going to do that, but yeah, I'm sure it's good.
All right, what's your number 9?
Yeah, this will be a bit of a shorter one, but I'll put Love Hard there.
Ah, yeah.
I mean, whatever I said in that Christmas episode, it's pretty much
I'll link
what
it
I'd say here.
in the video.
Yeah. I mean, it's just about a woman who gets catfished by Jimmy O Yang. Is it Jimmy O Yang? Not Aaron Chen?
Aaron Chen. One of them.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just, as I said, there were some elements in this movie that I didn't mind. I didn't mind some of the direction. But I just think it's just really boring. Wasn't as bad as when I initially watched it, because I watched it again to review the Christmas episode. I didn't watch it again after that, because that's just, why would I, like, waste my time?
I think Love Hard didn't make it on my list because I didn't have any expectations of it. I kind of knew it was going to be bad, and then when I watched it, I was like, actually, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's pretty far down on my worst list, because once again, I haven't watched that many movies I didn't like this year, but I watched Love Hard, and it's just I'm not a rom-com guy, and I just didn't really like this movie that much, and I'm never going to watch it again.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's all I have to say.
It's not going to be one of those films that you break out every Christmas to watch.
Nah, I don't think so. Man. I don't think a lot of people are going to break this movie out. But what's your number 8?
Number 8 for me was Army of the Dead by Zack Snyder.
Army of the Dead. I think this is a really bad movie, but I enjoyed it a lot, so I didn't put it on my list.
I feel like it had promise, and I was pretty jazzed about it when it came out, but it fell very short of my expectations.
Yeah, with a lot of setups and no payoffs.
Yeah, again, it's like suffers from trying to make a franchise syndrome, you know.
You're not going to watch Army of Thieves?
I did watch Army of Thieves, and actually I preferred Army of Thieves to Army of the Dead.
Interesting.
But yeah, Army of the Dead, you know, the opening credits are like the best part of the film, which should never be the case for a film, you know.
Yeah, Zack Snyder does good opening credits.
He does, yeah. Watchmen's opening credits are really good too. He's really good at telling a story with credits, you know, like a self-contained story.
That doesn't make a movie though, I guess.
No, like it just leaves me thinking I'd rather watch that film than this film, you know. I'd rather watch a film based around these opening credits than Army of the Dead. But yeah, like it teases a lot of things. Like I was hoping for zombie hordes and over the top action, but it delivered like bland gunfights instead.
Yeah, it kind of takes itself a bit too seriously at some points. Do you reckon?
Yeah, well, it's a zombie heist film, which sounds like a lot of fun, right?
Yeah.
But it's not that fun of a movie. It's kind of weird because they don't commit to either genre. They don't have the elements of either genre that make them good. Like on the zombie aspect, it doesn't really feature big hordes of zombies. It doesn't feature like claustrophobia. It doesn't feature like the human element, which makes zombie films good. And on the heist side, it doesn't feature an elaborate plan. It doesn't feature a charismatic team.
Well, there's that scene of them explaining the plan.
Yeah, but it's not really a plan. It's just like, we're going to find this safe, we're going to open this safe, and then we're going to get out. You know, like it's not an Ocean's 11 film. As much as they want to do that whole like explain the plan with cool music in the background kind of thing, like it just falls short. The team is just, it's not very interesting of a team, and there's no twists. You know, there's no bit of the film where it's like, oh no, it looks like the plan's failing, but actually this was the plan all along, kind of thing.
Yeah. Just thinking of that Rick and Morty episode.
Yeah, I mean, you son of a bitch.
I actually found this movie pretty fun to watch. I watched this movie with my mate at like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. I think we'd just been playing like some games, and then we're having a couple of drinks. So like, yeah, Army of the Dead's out. Let's heat up some popcorn and chuck it on. And yeah, like I thought it was a pretty fun movie. Like there's a lot of plot holes, but like I think I was just tired and I just wanted to watch Batista shoot zombies.
Yeah, maybe my expectations were too high, but I mean, like, were you not disappointed that, you know, they don't use that circular saw on any zombies?
Oh, I mean, they used it in the part where they're talking about the heist.
They use it to cut a hole in a wall at one point. I think that's the only part they use.
Yeah, like there's a lot of, like, I was disappointed by the zombie tiger. They didn't really do much with it.
Sure, yeah. There's like a sequence where, like, yeah, when they're explaining the plan, where the safecracker's like got a baseball bat with barbed wire around it, and we're like, I can't wait to see him use that, and then he just doesn't use it.
But I did enjoy it when like they try to shoot the zombies and they're doing like the zigzag thing that you see in like early 2000s movies. They're like dodging, because when I've been playing the World War Z game a lot with Risky, and sometimes like the zombies kind of do that. I'm like, you fucker! I'm like trying to cut him down. Yeah, but no, it's not a fantastic movie, but I know I had fun with it. I was going to put that on my special mentions.
Wasted potential
bad movies. Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, you're probably right.
What's your number 8?
Number 8 is I wonder if this should have been further up, but it is where it is. Like, just thinking about it now. But Matrix Resurrection. I'm pretty sure people would be fresh off listening to what I said about this movie.
Yeah, I'll link it in the video.
I think I can keep this one pretty short. It's just like bland story, wasted potential.
Yeah.
Definitely in this one. Bland soundtrack, bland fight sequences. Just not very, and just too long, way too long. Yeah, just go watch The Matrix.
Yeah, I think it's just a mess of ideas, isn't it? Like, and just kind of not committing to anything really, just pumping out a sequel for the sake of having a sequel.
Yeah, lack of care. Just
lack of care. Yes.
Just not very interesting. Yeah, no, I've got nothing new to add since we talked about it.
Yeah, if you do want to listen to us rant about The Matrix for an hour and a half, I'll link our episode.
Yeah,
in here.
What's your number 7?
Number 7 for me was Fast and Furious 9.
Yes. Shit's movie. I tried to watch this movie again to review it properly for this list, but I just couldn't get through 10 minutes of it. I just kept falling asleep. I found it's really boring. Like, but let's go into why you didn't like it first.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like a lot of the Fast saga as it's referred to nowadays. It started with number 1, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. Like enjoyable enough, and then number 2 came out, and a lot of people didn't like number 2, but I quite enjoyed it as well. Same with number 3, actually, Tokyo Drift, which is actually one of my favorite Fast and Furious films. So I have a lot of time for the Fast franchise, but this one, number 9, it's just really like by the numbers. It's lazier than any of the other films preceding it. From what I've heard, they're going to do a Infinity War Endgame style finale, So 10 and 11 are going to be the last 2 of the saga.
Wait, so is it just going to be 10 and 11, or 10 part 1 and 10 part 2 kind of thing?
Well, either way, like the next 2 films are going to be the last 2 films of this story arc, I think.
Yeah, they don't want to let this franchise cash cow, man.
Well, yeah, it's probably going to be Hobbs and Shaw sequels or whatever, but like this particular Dominic Toretto story arc, I think they're planning on ending it with 2 movies. So this Fast and Furious 9 just felt like a bit of a filler episode, like just wasting time till we get to the end kind of thing. I mean, John Cena is in it. He plays Dominic Toretto's brother, who somehow has become an international super thief as well. I guess it runs in the family. So we get a bit more of Dominic's backstory about how he basically hates his brother. So for somebody that's like in love with family so much, it's quite interesting to see how much he hates his brother. So you've seen it, right? Almost twice.
I've seen this movie. Almost twice. Yeah.
There are parts where they draw attention to the fact that their characters are invincible. If you remember.
I remember that.
Yeah, there's a particular scene where Tyrese's character is separated from the group, and they're getting chased by all these militia. Right? Oh, spoilers, by the way, for mild spoilers.
It's not really a spoiler. Yeah. I mean, they're not going to die.
He finds himself like surrounded by all of these armed militia. They've all got guns trained at him, and he's just by himself. And you're thinking, it's just Tyrese's character. He's not going to die. Somebody's going to come in with a car and save him. But actually, he just shoots all of the guys and like just survives on his own without getting shot. And they're all like shooting at him, but they don't hit him. And this is like quite close proximity as well to
and they're not even in the Matrix either.
And then after that scene, he's having a talk with Ludacris and Miss Sandy, Natalie Emanuel's character.
So you don't even know that it's Roman.
Okay, Roman.
But I don't know who Miss Sandy's character, British one.
He's having a chat with those two about like. So he takes out his jacket, and it's got like all these bullet holes in it, but he's completely uninjured, and he's like talking about like how he thinks that their characters are invincible. And it's kind of like a really odd moment in the film. Like on one hand, I find it pretty interesting because it legitimately feels like Tyrese may be trapped in some kind of coma dream that he can't like wake up from. And Ludacris and Missandei are like figments of his subconscious, protecting him from the truth. But they just laugh it off. It's just a comedic moment in the end. And like, it's just really bizarre, I found. But aside from that, just a very uninteresting film in general.
Like this one, I guess to save some time, this one is number 4 for me. on my list. I guess I could just talk about it now and get that shit out of the way. But like, I'm not a big fan of the Fast and Furious movies. I watched the first one years and years ago, and I probably liked it then, but it's maybe more because I wanted to fit in because all the cool kids love Fast and Furious. Didn't like the second one, hated Tokyo Drift, watched half of Fast 5, which is the best one.
Yeah, it's
apparently.
my favorite.
And I enjoyed what I saw, but I think we were just watching it at my place and we had to go somewhere. And like, yeah, I'll probably finish this off at some point, but it just didn't draw me in enough for me to want to watch it again or finish it off. And then, yeah, I went into Fast 9. Like, I wasn't even going to watch this movie, but a few friends of mine were going to watch it, and I was just bored at home. I'm like, yeah, I may as well head out. And then I watched it. It's just like, yeah, it's just, I don't know. This movie seems like if you gave like a budget to like all the cool kids to make a movie, it's just got every single macho trope. And I like, a good like masculine macho movie from time to time, but I just find I just don't like the elements of this movie.
So it's a bit much.
The kind of the reggaeton and the, like when they go to like the parties and stuff, and there's always just like
the spray tan
chicks. Yeah, it's very glossy. Yeah. And the action sequences are just a bit too ridiculous. It's just trying to be so cool that it's just uncool. I don't know. It's some parts of this movie take place in Tokyo, and it's just like really lazy reverse shot with like probably just CG Tokyo in the background. Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know, I just find it really boring. And I probably went in to watch the worst one to try to reignite a Fast and Furious light. But yeah, it's just too, I just find the series a bit too dumb for me. Like, yeah. I mean, sure, I like watching dumb movies. I mean, we just talked about Willy's Wonderland. That's a dumb film, but like there is some effort in there and some interest. Where it's just, I don't know.
I think
it's very by the numbers.
I think it's the lack of effort that gets it for me in this film in particular. And I feel like some of that has to do with it's not that of an important film in the franchise in general. So it's kind of like, let's get it out and make the money, and it made lots of money. So
I mean, the best thing to come out of this movie is the Chong Cena memes. But Fast 9?
Fast 9.
F9.
Yeah, I think you can skip this one even if you're into the Fast franchise. Yeah.
Nah, people will watch it. Yeah. What was those? That was number 7, yeah?
7, yeah.
Number 7, which was higher in my list, but upon rewatching it, I realized it wasn't that bad. It's Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
There is quite a number of elements that I do like in this movie.
2 in particular. Sub-Zero and Scorpion.
Yeah. Joe Taslim and Hiroyuki Sanada are like fantastic in this movie. And the first 5 minutes of this movie is awesome. You could pick apart that, like, it's obviously not filmed in Japan. It's filmed in Australia, just looking at the trees. They have a very white-looking kid for, a Japanese kid. But that's all right. But Joe Taslim has such a presence in this movie as a villain in the start. And the fight scenes are brutal. And it's like, oh, this could be pretty good. And then it cuts to, what's his name? Cole?
Cole.
He's just like, I mean, he does okay, and that's it. And a lot of the other actors in this movie do okay. Kano is a standout as well.
Australia's own.
Josh Lawson. He's really good at this movie. Those 3 actors bumped it up because, like, Kano's reaction to a lot of the
absurdity.
Absurdity of the situation, and him just being a better actor than everyone else on screen kind of contrasts to it. The fight scenes are okay, but it's still like a bit too PG. Like, they're surprisingly not that violent.
There's 1 fatality in it.
Oh, there's 2. There's the one on Reptile and the Flying Bitch.
Right, yeah.
But like, Yeah, I don't know. I just found this movie kind of shit. Like, I didn't really like the focus on Cole.
I think
Young.
it also suffered from setting up a franchise syndrome.
Yeah. It's. I'm just remembering now when he's punching the ice is the most ridiculous fucking thing. Yeah, he's like punching. I won't talk it because it's a bit of a spoiler, but there's a scene where Cole Young is punching ice and it looks fucking
It's even
dumb.
worse because it's in the middle of like a really good action scene and it cuts in between the two. So you're trying to watch this really good like fight scene, but it's cutting like intermittently to Cole just punching ice.
Yeah, it was really silly. I found that like Cole gets rescued too much in this movie. He doesn't really do much of his own thing. Like when he fights Melina and then Sonya comes in, he's like, hey, a little help? And then like Sonya just kind of solves it for him.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, and like all the other fighters have basically done their own fight. But he's like, help. And yeah, he's punching ice.
It's because he's not from the games. He doesn't have the experience.
How shit is Shang Tsung in this movie, man? Like, he just appears and like he just looks like a guy that I would order like food court Chinese food from, you know.
Well, it's the guy from The Dark Knight, right? It's the accountant.
He's got no presence. Yeah. And you've got like Joe Taslim, who is this awesome villain, and he's so like, oh, he's sick in this movie. Like, I wish they had like used him more. There's a scene where like you see Melina, Raiko, and Cabal walk in, and there's like this shot where Sub-Zero looks kind of like disappointed, and I kind of thought, I was like, oh, I should have just been the main villain in this movie.
Yeah, he steals the show, man. Him and Scorpion, especially considering that you can only see half their face for a lot of the film. Like, there's a lot of eye acting in it, which is not easy to do. Like, just ask Tom Hardy. He's always got shit covering his face, and like to be able to be that expressive with just your eyes. In a movie like that, it's just very impressive. And I honestly hope they get another shot at it just because I want to see more of them. Yeah,
I would watch another Mortal Kombat movie, and I think this movie did pretty well, so you will see more. So maybe, depending on what happens in the future installments, this movie might be better because it needs to lead on to something. But for what it stands now, it's not great. I think I watched this movie with Boone, and we left the cinema, and we were like, yeah, that was pretty shit. And that was basically the only talk of the movie.
Would you say it's better or worse than Paul W.S. Anderson's Mortal Kombat?
No, I like Paul W.S. Anderson's Mortal Kombat more.
It's good.
Actually, it has more of a presence. But I think that's enough about this movie. All right. What's your number 6?
Number 6 is Night Teeth.
Night Teeth?
Yes.
What the fuck is Night Teeth?
It's a vampire film that was on Netflix. So the plot is a chauffeur. He takes a job driving these 2 young women around for the night. But turns out these women might be vampires, and he's caught up in a war between vampires and vampire hunters. Yeah, I don't have that much to say about this film. I mean, Megan Fox and Sydney Sweeney are in it for a second. Theon Greyjoy is trying his best to be an intimidating villain in this. Alfie Allen, I should say. Like, if you're going to cast a guy to be an intimidating villain, this is not the guy to cast.
Yeah, no. But I mean, like, he can try to reinvent himself, but maybe a little bit too much for this movie.
It's just, it suffers from style over substance. It's trying its best to be this kind of slick noir film, but it doesn't really offer anything new. It takes way too much time expositing the rules and reasons for the world that it's set in, but like, you don't need to. People will get it. It's vampires versus vampire hunters. You don't need to explain like the origins of this war. It's, we get it. So I would have rather they spend a bit more time, developing the characters a bit more, or just adding a few better like set pieces. Yeah, it's just not very good.
Sounds shit. Not gonna watch it.
Yeah.
What number? This is number 6, right?
Wait, yes.
I'm progressively getting drunker. I've like drank half this bottle of wine already.
Okay.
But, that's fine. Number 6 is Space Jam 2.
Oh, okay.
But this is one of the movies I probably most enjoy on this list. I watched this movie. I mean, does this movie need a synopsis? Space Jam.
It's LeBron James gets sucked into the internet.
He gets sucked into the Matrix, and he plays with Bugs Bunny, and they try to recruit a team. But this watching LeBron act is so funny because it's so bad. But like, I kind of don't blame LeBron because this isn't his job. Like, I mean, I feel like he was called onto set maybe for 3 hours. Whatever they could afford before he had to go back to his real job, being a basketballer. I think he's trying, is what I'm trying to say. He's trying. His performance, it's very low energy, but super over the top.
Right.
So there's like bits where he's kind of like floating through space.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like, but like, yeah, it's just, and there's like kind of shots where there's like, it'll be a close up of his face.
Yeah.
Or like a medium close-up, and that he needs to emote something, but he doesn't do it quite well, but that's all they've got to work with, so they've just used that shot. That's what it looks like. It's like, look, man, I want to go home. It's like, all right, just use that edit. It's fine. And I like some of the 2D animation in this movie.
I was going to ask, how's the animation?
Yeah, it's... The animation, the 2D stuff is fine. 3D stuff's there, it's all right. But this movie is like an example of corporate art. Like, it is so corporate that it's kind of funny to watch. I mean, you're watching, because there's the big game at the end, and there's a lot of Warner Brothers product placement from other IPs. So this is a kid's film, right? But you see it from it.
Pennywise,
Pennywise, that's it. The Clockwork Orange game from Clockwork Orange. Game of Thrones. I think you see the Nun from The Conjuring.
Okay.
And it's just like and they're like prominently on screen. So they're obviously there for people who have watched Space Jam 1 and have...
Or maybe parents as well of the kids watching Space Jam 2.
Yeah, it's just so blatant.
But I mean...
it's funny.
Do kids know who Bugs Bunny is?
That's the thing.
Who do you think this film is for?
This movie is for us. It's for people trying to live off nostalgia. Because kids don't know. Kids don't give a shit about Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
Except for Big Chungus, the meme, which they pay homage to. But it's just... I don't know. I find this movie really entertaining. And there's a really... I'll explain this one scene. It's kind of the all is lost moment. And they're like having the pep talk. And they're like trying to come up with new strategies.
Right.
And Daffy Duck is like, oh, so worry. I found Michael Jordan. And then they're like, oh, you got Michael Jordan? And there's like, yeah, like come out. And it's like, he brings him in. And it's Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, oh yeah, I was kind of like kidnapped. And it's just really funny because Daffy Duck is just racist.
Does he? Does he stick around, or he just?
No, he does. He kind of just goes away, but he's just there for a gag, and it's so that movie that I knew that joke was coming because I'd seen it before.
Sure.
But like, it still made me laugh. Like this movie actually like made me laugh, which is like quite enjoyable and. It's yeah.
It's funny
it's a bad movie.
It's funny how you say it's a very corporately generated film, because my understanding, I haven't seen it, but my understanding of the premise is like there's an evil program called LG Rhythm, who is played by Don Cheadle, who is like creating media or something like along those lines, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that maybe it's self-referential?
Yeah, it's kind of like how we were talking about like Lana kind of making fun of her own movie. It feels like this movie is kind of making fun of Warner Brothers again, because like they can't. Yeah, Algae Rhythm, played by Don Cheadle, who's done like 10 bags of cocaine. I'm pretty sure, because he gives a pretty deliciously over the top performance.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's basically a program that comes up with movie ideas, but then like they basically say that LeBron should be in all these crossover movies, and he's like, nah, like, don't you think this sounds like a dumb idea? But it's kind of like
it's happening. It's what we're seeing. It's what we're seeing on screen right now.
Yeah.
So layers, I guess.
Yeah. This is one of the movies on this list that I would actually recommend people watch with some alcohol. It's actually pretty. I enjoyed this movie more than I should have, and maybe for the wrong reasons. But yeah, Space Jam, and New Legacy. Yeah,
cool.
All right, it's number 5.
Number 5 for me was Cinderella 2021.
Cinderella. Yes. This movie is garbage.
It's a reimagined Glee Club version of the classic Disney fairy tale Cinderella. Yeah, I can't remember that much about it. I feel like maybe the songs were okay, but everything else is just bad.
As I was saying before, like, I don't really like empowerment movies, I should say. And this movie kind of
leave your comments below.
It's like I mean, we can save time. For me, this is number 3 on my list. Sure. It's just, I'm not a big fan of jukebox musicals. So for me, the songs were kind of just
I don't remember how any of them go, but they're fine, I think.
Don't really like James Corden.
Oh, I hate James Corden. He's so bad, and he's in everything.
He is. I did like the hip thrusting meme that came out of this movie.
Okay,
that was funny. That's the best thing to come out of this movie.
So you weren't a fan of like the reimagining of it, like how Cinderella is a business woman trying to be a fashion designer.
Yeah. Are you trying to get me cancelled or something, man?
I actually didn't. That wasn't the worst part of the film for me. Like my problem is that they didn't commit to it again. Like I think I'm just going to spoil it. Because
you don't need to watch this movie.
So Cinderella, she wants to be a fashion designer, but the kingdom doesn't take her seriously because women. But then she falls in love with the prince because of magic, I guess. Mm-hmm. She gets herself into this situation where she has to choose between being a world-class fashion designer and chasing her dream, or marrying the prince who she loves all of a sudden. And she's like, it's like, oh, which one will she choose? But at the end, she just gets both because the prince decides to give up his throne, which, I understand that this is the kind of film where you need to have like a happy ending, but it's lazy. It's just like you've painted yourself into this corner and then you're just going to like come up with this convenient solution that makes sure that the protagonist gets everything that she wants. Like, no, that's not the message that you want to be sending young women, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. For me, there's that, and it's just like, I just don't like the elements of this movie. It looks like, you know, when you're in primary school and you have like a group of like, performers or actors who come in and try to teach you something. It's like, hey kids, we're going to learn about the human body, but we're going to do it with a rap song. Yeah. And it's like, oh yeah, my brains are cool and my rhymes are slick. But like, and then as a kid, you kind of know it's bad. I mean, you know, not even kind of, you just know it's bad. It's just like cringy.
It does have a very after school special kind of vibe to it.
Yeah.
Like this cheap theater kid quality.
With the guy's like, I don't know. It's just, So, there's not very much to remember about
it. It feels like a stage performance rather than a feature film.
I watched this movie with my mum, and she didn't even like this movie. She said it was shit. Oh, she didn't say it that way, but she prefers the Disney version.
Me too.
But yeah.
I don't like Pierce Brosnan's beard in it. I don't like it. I think he needs to change it. He's got a Colonel Sanders goatee going on. What's up with that? And
Yeah, no, it's didn't like this movie.
No. What's your number 5?
Number 5 is Welcome to Raccoon City.
Okay, that's my number 4.
What's your number 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've got our episode. You can just listen to that. Once again, just didn't work. Poor treatment of video game characters. Too much going on. Yeah, it's just shit.
It's the second video game adaptation that's made your worst 10 list so far.
It was actually further up, but then upon thinking about it, like, yeah, this movie is pretty bad. Because I did actually enjoy, I guess because I like zombie movies, so that's why it's ahead of Fast and Furious 9. It's just, yeah, I don't know. It's just a bad movie. The action sequences are bad. It looks cheap, and yeah, I don't want to watch it again.
No, I don't want to watch the sequel. I don't think it'll get the sequel, but
no, it's not. Didn't make enough money. But yeah, that's my number 5.
Okay, well, that was my number 4. So I guess we can move on to your number 4.
Yeah, it was Fast and Furious 9.
Oh, okay.
Which we already talked about.
Yeah,
Fast and Furious 9. Yeah, no, as we were talking about before, just not a big fan of this series, and it's just a bit boring. Should we just jump to your number 3 then?
Yep. My number 3 is Red Notice.
Yeah, I've heard that this movie is... I was going to watch that movie to, like, see if it was that bad, but I'm like, I don't want to waste 2.5 hours. Is it? No, it's 2 hours. Looks shit.
I don't think... Well, a lot of people have watched it.
It's Netflix's highest grossing movie.
Yeah, something ridiculous.
It's got Ryan Reynolds, The Rock, and Gal Gadot.
That's it.
The most profitable faces in Hollywood right now.
Yeah, you got those 3. You know, they were doing heists. Ryan Reynolds is cracking jokes. The Rock is a cop. Gal Gadot is the world's best thief, apparently. So
wait, I haven't seen the movie, but because Gal Gadot is the villain,
Kinda.
But she's not really the villain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's just, you just know. I mean, it's Gal Gadot. Like, they're not going to make her the villain. I'm like, come on, movie. They should have just made her the villain. I haven't even seen the fucking movie, and I would just say that.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, it sounds all right. And it is all right, I guess. But, like, it's so mediocre and like, passionless. And usually this kind of movie is my go-to movie for a good time. Like, I fucking love Indiana Jones. I love Tomb Raider. Well, the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raiders.
I love Jungle Cruise.
Yeah, I love National Treasure. You know, these kind of adventure films where they're trying to get treasure is you know, what I really enjoy. But this movie is just so bland. Like, the action set pieces are just unimaginative and poorly shot.
There's not very much stakes, is there? Like, you know...
Yeah, because the 3...
people are going to get out all right.
Yeah, the 3 big stars are, like, so big that they're unkillable, basically, you know? I feel like I heard The Rock is, like... He's got it somewhere in his contracts that he can only take a certain amount of punishment in any movie, you know?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Well, it's quite interesting, actually, especially with the Fast franchise. So him and Vin Diesel, you know, like, they're pretty big egos, yeah? So in any fight scene that they're in, Vin Diesel, because he's such a Dungeons & Dragons nerd, he came up with a system where they can calculate how much damage each of their characters takes in a fight scene. So whenever they fight, they have to take, according to his figures, the same amount of damage as each other. Like, neither of the characters can end up on top in a fight scene between the two of them.
You can understand why movies are generic with this, because, like, screenwriters are trapped to this system, you know, and that's why you always have these predictable movies, because you just need to follow the formula and like, this happens, put convenient plot point here. I mean, like, that's just dumb.
I feel like this movie, Red Notice, really could have benefited from just getting rid of one of the major players. Like, if you had The Rock and Ryan Reynolds, I think it would have been better. Or if you had Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot, it would have been better. Like, just 2 out of the 3 instead of all 3 of them. I think, they could have saved a shit ton of money on one of them, and that money could have been diverted to like making the other scenes better, maybe.
But people don't care about good scenes. They just want to see the actors. I mean, this movie made a shit ton of money.
But nobody seems to like it particularly.
Yeah, but they don't care. They just need to grab your money once and that's it.
It's like the cinematic equivalent of clickbait. This film.
yeah.
Like click it, and then what happens after that, they don't care. As long as you've clicked the film.
I mean, isn't that sad? That's kind of what filmmaking almost is. Like, there's a number of really good movies out there, as we have talked about in the length of our best of episode, which we haven't even started editing yet, but it's big.
Yeah.
But like, people, I don't know, don't really care that much. It's just like, oh, it's The Rock and it's Gal Gadot and Ryan Reynolds. Like, I'll watch it, and like that's it. And because it's on Netflix, it's just so much easier to access, and it's just like, oh yeah, I don't need to think much about it. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's the lack of care. The lack of care really annoys me.
I haven't seen it, and it's making me sad.
Yeah, maybe it's because I like this genre that, I was just, put off by this film in general. Because it's not, like, it could have been any genre, and people still would have clicked on it, So to make this movie, like, in a genre that I love, and for it to be so, like, mediocre and loveless, it's just a bit, it's very disappointing. Yeah, I would watch National Treasure 2, Book of Secrets over this.
Yeah, National Treasures, they're good movies.
Yeah, they're all right.
Yeah, I guess we can kind of skip ahead, because I already said Cinderella was my number 3.
Oh, okay.
So maybe I'll take over.
Yeah, give us your number 2.
And talk about my number 2. I mean, you already know. You already know my top 2, but you don't know which order they are. Okay. And I had to... They were both clawing for the top spot when I was watching them and thinking about them.
Okay.
I would say my number 2 spot is probably the worst movie, but the first one is more of a personal hatred.
Okay.
But I'll go for number 2. Number 2 is Snake Eyes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, this movie is fucking shit. Like, I didn't like the first G.I. Joe movie. I didn't bother watching the second one. The way that we were watching fucking Fast 9, and we saw the trailer for this movie, and I had no idea why me and my group of friends that I saw were compelled to see this movie. But we were just like, yeah, let's go watch Snake Eyes. And it was the movie that I watched in between the week of freedom that Melbourne had before we went into the really big lockdown.
Oh, no.
And, I mean, the plot is Henry Golding's character, whose name is Snake Eyes. His father gets killed and he wants to get revenge, and he basically spends the movie trying to do that. He gets picked up by, like, this Yakuza, and he kind of helps him out, but then him and, like, Storm Shadow, who's not Storm Shadow yet, I don't remember the character's name, but he kind of helps Storm Shadow, like, not get executed by the Yakuza. And then Storm Shadow takes him to his ninja clan in Japan. And it's like, he tries to gain their trust and yada, yada, yada. But like, Snake Eyes is such a unlikable dickhead in this movie. And we were talking before, it was that Rosamund Pike, was it I Could Care Less?
I Care a Lot.
I Care a Lot, that's it, yeah. Writing a character that's unlikable is a risk. But if you do it well, it's pretty rewarding to see, and it takes a lot of skill. This movie doesn't have that. It's this guy is an unlikable jerk, and he's got to do these tests in these movies, but he basically kind of fails them all. But like, he just gets a slap on the wrist, basically. Like, there's this one character that he kind of talks with. It's like the bodyguard of the whatever the fucking clan is, the Discount Ling Kuei or whatever. It's like, she's like, yeah, I don't trust you, and she follows him, but he always manages to deke her. But then, like, she catches him in the act, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm doing this because, like, my dad got killed by this guy, and then she just suddenly like loves him. And it's like, what? Like, where's the chemistry? What is this writing? And there's like this. I'm just gonna spoil this movie because fuck it's shit. Okay. Like, there's this part where like he's gotta stand with these anacondas, and there's like these really strict rules, and he cannot get any help, and like the snakes won't attack you unless you're pure of heart. But he fails the test, and then his bodyguard friend like breaks the rules and helps him. And then, like, the matriarch of the gang's like, oh, you broke the rules, blah, blah, blah. But then, like, after that, it just doesn't amount to anything. He's not banished. The bodyguard is like, yeah, I'll take responsibility. And then it's kind of like, well, if I don't mention it again, I just won't get in trouble, kind of thing. He, like, fucks up for this whole movie. And then at the end, basically, Storm Shadow does one thing wrong, and then he's banished from the clan. But, like, Henry Golding's like, oh, no, you're fine. You can just hang out here, man. It's all cool. It's like, he does one thing wrong. Storm Shadow does one thing wrong for the good of the clan. And they're like, nah, get out. And then that's why he becomes Storm Shadow. And he's, like, the most compelling character in this movie.
Oh, okay.
And he seems like he's the protagonist. And this is a fucking dumb, it's just a shit movie. This movie, like, in the cinema, I just wanted to leave. I really wanted to walk out of this movie because it was that bad. It's just, like, I wanted to watch all these other movies during lockdown that came out. Like, these movies I want to support. And I've gone and I've given my money to Snake Eyes. It didn't make. No one wanted to watch it. It didn't make its money back.
It's an interesting choice for a franchise opener. You know, like, nobody really cares about G.I. Joe.
No one cares. But they have the franchise, and they see that Asian representation is bankable now. Henry Golding is just not vicious looking enough. He's just, I don't know. There's so many points in this movie where Snake Eyes' character arc, like, zigzags. Like, it seems like he's learned something to be a better person, and then in the next scene, he just does something despicable. And it's just like, I mean, it's just dumb, like, you know. And it's so sad, because, like, fucking Iko Uwais is in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, man,
forgot about that. Yeah.
This dude, I mean, and he speaks English pretty well. This guy, you know, he had to learn fucking English to go and star in fucking Snake Eyes. You know?
Wow.
And it's like, yeah, it's...
it pays the bills, I guess.
I better stop, man. I'll go on for way too long about this movie.
Hopefully it doesn't negatively impact either of their careers. I mean...
Nah. Yeah, I don't think so.
Maybe they can learn from it. All right. Yeah, sounds bad. I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah, I would almost say watch... Well, for you personally to watch it, no one else watched it. It's rubbish. But, like, I think...
Do you think I like it?
I'd be curious to hear your opinion. Because you might like it. I don't know.
Okay.
But I think it's definitely the worst screenplay of the year.
Well, my number 2 is also quite bad. I think probably technically worse than my number 1. My number 2 is Cosmic Sin. It's a movie from the actor that hates acting, Mr. Bruce Willis. Yeah.
How sad is that? The king, you know, you're in Die Hard, man.
Well, I feel like he's hated movies for a while now. But yeah, it's directed by this guy, Edward Drake, who is actually, he's been involved in quite a number of Bruce Willis projects that I have not seen. Yeah. He's directed this movie called Apex. He directed American Siege, and he was a writer on the movie Breach, all of whom star Bruce Willis. So I guess he's like some kind of enabler for Bruce Willis to get paychecks now. Yeah, Cosmic Sin is... It's bad. It's a
science fiction.
It's a science fiction film with a very simple premise, I guess. Like, humanity kind of not so distant future or distant future. It's pretty unclear. But they make contact for the first time with an alien race, and it's kind of clear that it's a hostile alien race. So this team of soldiers is kind of sent on a mission to get the coordinates of the alien homeworld so they can, like, nuke it, basically, or like the sci-fi equivalent of a nuke, which is called a Q bomb. And yeah, I got nothing good to say about this film. It's got Frank Grillo in it, but he's almost as uninvested as Bruce Willis is. Like there's a point in the film where he's just floating in space, and it's clear that he's just kind of saying his lines against a green screen, and Bruce Willis's performance, man, it's just he's doing his best to avoid acting and moving.
It's kind of like him and Steven Seagal have the same acting philosophy.
Yeah. There's this fight scene that happens quite early on in the film. It's like a bar fight, and he's just sat down for a lot of it. Like he's just sitting at the bar for the whole fight. And it's like the gunfights as well. It's just like him hiding behind cover and shooting from cover. And like the other people around him kind of running out occasionally from cover and getting shot. That's like the majority of the film is just watching that over and over again.
Him behind cover.
Yeah. I mean, the other actors, I feel like they're trying, but they're so like generic that none of them really stands out. The design of the aliens is just super lazy. It's like Lord of the Rings cosplay.
So space orcs is what I'm picturing.
Space Nazgul, I would say. Space Nazgul.
Space Nazgul.
It's just a terrible, terrible film.
Yeah, I've seen some people review this movie. What they've said is some of the costume design looks alright, and some of the gun designs look cool, but everything is just very cheap about this movie, is what I've heard.
It's not even laughably bad. It's just bad.
It's just boring, it's just bad.
It's a slug. I watched the first 10 minutes of it and turned it off.
But then I told you about this list.
Yeah,
and like,
you told me the rule of having to watch the entire film for it to be able to be on my list. So I was like, fine, I'll watch the entire film. And I'm not going to lie, Tavi, it was a slug.
How long is the movie? Like,
I don't think it's that long. It feels like an eternity, though.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm going to have a look as well, because it's an hour and 28 minutes.
An hour and 28 minutes.
It's just as short as it can be. And it's got 3% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
It's got the lowest audience rating on Google that I've seen. Because a lot of the movies that I've disliked will have a pretty high audience rating on Google. It might even be worth reading some of them at some point.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, Bruce Willis, man. If you're listening, just retire.
Oh, can I read this? Can I read this 1 5-star review?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm not a seasoned film critic, but I can say I found this film interesting, exciting, and intriguingly existential. The cast did a stellar job at creating suspense, dry wit, convincing camaraderie, and sheer terror as they navigate first contact with an alien species. The quantum scientist did an amazing job at holding her own as she's prematurely put in a position of ultimate responsibility. I've always loved Bruce Willis's acting, and this piece of work showcases his exceptional acting skills really well. I would definitely watch this film at least 3 times to fully appreciate the entirety of the special effects and strong acting, period.
Okay.
5 stars.
That's a troll. That's 100% a troll. Like, it's just dripping in sarcasm. That everything bad about the film is he's said it as a positive.
Alright, we should probably move on.
Yeah. Okay. Don't watch Cosmic Sin. Do you have any honorable mentions before we do number 1?
Oh, just dishonorable mentions.
Dishonorable
you mentioned
mentions?
Army of the Dead. Yeah, not as many as my best of it. Yeah, the only other movie that missed it was probably Venom: Let There Be Carnage.
Okay.
That movie is entertaining. It's just a bit too goofy. I feel like Cletus Cassidy, I'm not sure if he's like that in the comic, but I feel like he's not a very threatening villain. Like, his story is a bit too watered down. Like, the fact that he's a serial killer isn't because he's like pure evil. It's because, like my family and whatnot, and I love a girl. It's just kind of lame. This is like, I don't know. The action sequences are pretty fun to watch, but I don't know. Carnage is cool, like the actual symbiote Carnage. But it's just kind of like, like you watch it once and you'll never watch it again.
Yeah, I feel like Cletus Cassidy is supposed to be a pretty inhuman character. Like he's almost more of a monster than Carnage himself.
He's definitely not that in this movie, which is kind of disappointing because he's not very threatening. It's just like he's too humanized, I think, for this role. Because, you can't have that in a kid's movie. So,
guess so.
What about you? That's the only mention I got.
Yeah, look, I don't have much. I'm going to chuck Godzilla vs. Kong in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know people like this film in general. Yeah. I just wasn't enough for me still. Like, it's probably one of the better of the newer Godzilla films and newer Kong films, but I don't know. It's just still...
Really? I quite liked Skull Island, actually. I thought that was a fun movie.
I think people like Kong Skull Island as well, but I didn't enjoy it very much. I don't know. It's just... I find them a bit dull. And it is just CGI monsters fighting each other, which I guess is the new kind of way of doing that kind of film. Like, I know you're not going to go back to guys in suits fighting over a miniature city. But I think that was a lot of the charm of the old Godzilla and old Kong films, and it just feels a bit lost when you're watching just a CGI fest. And like the human characters as well, I'm never really invested in anything that's happening with them.
They give them like the bare minimum, huh?
And yet they still take up a lot of runtime. So I know people seem to like that film, but for me, not. Chuck it in the bin.
I like Skull Island more than Godzilla vs. Kong. It's kind of more of an adventure film. Godzilla vs. Kong, I knew I wasn't going to get very much with the human element. But yeah, I was just watching it to watch monsters slap each other. But I mean, that's all you'll get out of it, really. Like the action sequences look cool, I suppose. But shall we delve into number ones?
Okay, go for it. What's your number one?
Oh, I think you know what my number one is. It's a film that you liked.
Yeah.
It's funny because we were just talking about CGI monsters fighting each other.
Yeah.
My number one is Monster Hunter. And I feel like just thinking now, Godzilla vs. Kong is probably a better Monster Hunter movie.
They're not the Monster same,
though. They should be the same. Anyway, but like Monster Hunter, the premise of this movie is a military group gets sucked into a portal and taken to a world with monsters. And Mila Jovovich is basically being Alice again. This movie is fucking shit. Like, I watched it at a theater because I had heard some good reviews about this movie.
From me.
From you and some other friends.
Yeah.
And I watched it and I just felt sick through this movie. It's funny because this is a Paul W.S. Anderson film, and just thinking back on the podcast, it seems that I've spoken quite favorably of his films. Like, I like Mortal Kombat, and I liked his Resident Evil 1 movie, but he takes liberties.
Yeah, he's kind of built his career around taking these beloved video game properties and making a movie that has nothing to do with these video game properties, but has the same name.
He's been accused of shitting on the source material. Resident Evil, you can kind of forgive because the games themselves are quite silly. Mortal Kombat, he did the best he could, and it's his best movie in the 90s, where you couldn't make an R-rated film like that. So that's props to him. But this fucking movie, it's like he came home like after doing some weed or whatever and just watched his friend play Monster Hunter for like an hour and then went to bed, woke up, like, I'm going to write a movie about this. And like, it's just so far from the vision. of what Monster Hunter is. And I'm not even the biggest Monster Hunter fan. But Monster Hunter World was such a big thing for me in 2020. Like, I played that game basically every day with my friends. I've got like 400 hours into that game. And just the world of Monster Hunter is such a fun, adventurous, and like almost like childish fantasy world.
It's very whimsical, isn't it?
That's it, whimsical. And it's also very anime as well. But it's such a feel-good world.
Not all the time. Not all the time. Sometimes you're in dank swamps that are poisonous. Sometimes you're fighting a giant magma monster.
Yeah, but everyone's attitude is so positive, and there's no like, it just feels very positive, But it's like, but with the fucking movie, it's like, let's put the fucking military in there, and that's the first wrong step. Like, why? I don't want to watch fucking Transformers, man. Like, that fucking shit bombs. And then when they get to the real world, like, when people are getting hurt, they're like screaming in agony and shit. And I felt like this movie was way too violent for what a monster. And you're not going to hear me say that a lot, I love my violence, but like, it's basically Paul W.S. Anderson wanting to do Resident Evil or Aliens. Like, the best part of this movie is when T.I. is rescuing Artemis. But I just realized they have the similar names. Anyway, she rescues Artemis, and then he's got like all these bug things in him because he rescues her from some spider's cave. And all the soldiers are dead by this point. Nice. Spoiler, but I don't give a shit about this movie. And then he's got all these like cocoons in him, and they all burst on his chest, and it's fucking grotesque. Yeah. And maybe in another movie it might have been good, but like T.I.'s just like, oh my disgusting. And he goes, oh, you gotta go. And he gets like mobbed by these spiders. And it's just like, it doesn't make sense, because I think hunters in the Monster Hunter world are kind of like superhuman. So that's why they can take hits from these massive beasts. But now hunters are just people, right? And like, how the fuck would anyone survive in this world? Tony Jaa, who plays the hunter, who should have been the main character of this movie, because he's got the most compelling story. But, it's W.S. Anderson wants to make Resident Evil again, because his family is killed by like a Rathalos, which is like one of the monsters, and that's one of the monsters in the game. That's his motivation to hunt monsters. But I feel this movie is just very mean-spirited. Like, Artemis and Tony Jaa, his character doesn't really have a name.
I think it's just the hunter.
They're just like mean to each other. He like tries to warn them, but then he tries to fight them. And then like Artemis breaks his family's figurines. That's so like.
But then they bond over chocolate, so chemistry generated.
Chocolate, and then they do the chocolate thing way too much in this fucking. Well, I watched this movie twice, so that was a big fucking ask. And this movie was worse the second time, and they fucking ram in the goddamn chocolate motif, I guess. I'm like, all right, man, you don't need to fucking talk about chocolate again. You'll see what I'm. If you do choose to watch this movie, you'll see what I mean. I don't know. This movie is just unpleasant, and like they just chucked in a bunch of the characters in the end, and it's like they kill them off. It's like, as Paul W.S. Anderson does, like, here's recognizable shit. Now they're dead because Alice has to do her thing, and it's just, I don't know. I didn't like this movie at all. Like it really pisses me off thinking about this movie. Yeah.
Well,
you like this movie, though.
I'm gonna spend a bit of time defending it. All right. So I've said before in the past that video game adaptations are hard. Like it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. If you try to adapt something 100%, it's not going to be accessible to mainstream audiences. If you try to do your own thing, it's going to piss off fans. So you're kind of like, you're screwed either way. But the thing I like about Paul W.S. Anderson's interpretations or reinterpretations is that when he does stray from the source material, it's something that the games can actually incorporate into them at some point. Like,
I don't want to see the military in Monster Hunter Den.
like,
I really don't.
I mean, they dabble with portals, you know. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, at some point down the line you get these human characters that are just, you know, military people coming in and shooting Rathalos. I don't know, but like for contrast, if you think about the Mortal Kombat reboot, the one that came out this year, 2021, I should say. So the changes they make in that film from the source material is things like adding Cole and adding that stupid dragon tattoo thing, the mark, and adding Arcana, something called Arcana, which is where they get their powers from.
Yeah.
All of that is stupid. It's rubbish, you know? Like, that is something that the games, you know, can't possibly incorporate at any point. Like, they might add a character called Cole in it at some point, and he's going to be a joke of a character probably. But, you know, like, it's just a meaningless choice that they've used to kind of, like, justify stuff that happens in the games. But the choices that Paul W.S. Anderson makes, you know, like, it's to serve the narrative of the story. Like, because Monster Hunter is a game that kind of doesn't really have a plot of its own. I know there is, you know, I'm not enough of a fan to know the nuts and bolts of it, but the plot is not really why people play these games. It's kind of like Pokemon-esque, you know, it's all about hunting monsters and defeating monsters. Yeah. Like, so to make that into a movie, you have to kind of add something else to it to devise a plot.
But like, is that the best? I mean, there is a Monster Hunter movie on Netflix, which is apparently pretty shit. I haven't watched it. I've heard it's not very great.
It probably sticks pretty closely to the source material. I think if you watched it, you'd find that. And that's the problem. Like, you can't just do that. Like, you have to add something to it. And maybe Paul W.S. Anderson, what he's added is not the best idea. But
I mean, on that sense, like, I'm going to talk about Arcane again, because it's going to get us views. Hashtag Arcane. But Arcane didn't have a story per se from the games. But the series, with what they've done with it, is amazing.
Yeah.
And they've kind of stuck to the design of the world from the games.
Yeah.
Whereas Monster Hunter, it's like the military.
I'm by no means saying that Monster Hunter is better than Arcane, because it's just not on any level. But it's at least better than Mortal Kombat 2021. I would say.
Oh, nah. I would honestly say Mortal Kombat is a better movie. It's more entertaining.
If you took out Scorpion and Sub-Zero, then Monster Hunter would be way better than...
No, I'd still probably just like Monster Hunter more. Okay. I don't know. I just feel like it's just... Because as I said, like, Snake Eyes is probably a worse movie, but Monster Hunter... I don't know. It just like kind of just shat on a memory. It's because I don't personally hate poor W.S. Anderson. Obviously,
he's crushing it, Tubbies. He's been crushing it for years.
yeah. But no, I just didn't like this movie at all. Like,
that's fair.
I mean, the fight scenes are okay. It's just, I don't know. I mean,
for me, it had enough of the Monster Hunter elements in it, and sure, the plot elements that he introduced did undermine some of it.
I think it undermined too much.
Yeah, like your example of the hunters being like not human in the games is a good example of like where, you know, introducing something like that can affect the rest of it. But I mean, that said, I feel like the stakes were still pretty good. Like, they still fought that Rathalos in the end, and they were getting chucked around, and it wasn't like a huge deal that they weren't being killed instantly. You know, it's still a believable fight scene.
I don't get why military gear doesn't hurt a Rathalos.
I mean, that's something for Paul W.S. Anderson to explore in the rest of his films.
Like, it just doesn't make sense. I don't know. I don't want to talk about this movie anymore. No. Anyway, what's your number one?
My number one is Old.
M. Night
from the one and only M. Night Shyamalan. Yeah.
Yes.
You haven't seen it, right?
Nah. All I know is that it's got Thomasin McKenzie in it.
Yeah.
Maybe her worst role. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's bad, but it's not technically as bad as Cosmic Sin. Like, M. Night Shyamalan, for the most part, knows what he's doing. It's just a really awkward film, and the good elements of it kind of only highlight how bad the awkward parts are, and it makes it really funny. It's like a really funny movie to watch, I found. So, I mean, the plot is, it's about a beach that makes you old. Yeah, so these people go to a beach and find that they can't leave the beach and that they're getting old really fast on the beach. For me, it falls under the category of so bad that it's good. The writing, especially the dialogue, is really awkward.
Yeah, he does that a lot in movies. A lot of his movies have really awkward dialogue.
He doesn't know how humans talk, I think. Especially children. Like, his writing for children is so bizarre. Is
that just his style, you reckon?
It is his style. But and it kind of works in movies like Signs, where the kid is supposed to be a bit weird. But yeah, the start of this film is like this seemingly normal family, and there's like an older sister and younger brother. They're like 6 years old and 8 years old, maybe, or 6 years old and 9 years old or something. And the 6-year-old boy, he just talks like an adult. But he does weird childlike things, like the way one of the games that he plays is he goes around to different people and asks them, so what's your name and your profession? And it's just a really weird way to establish characters.
Yeah, he likes giving characters quirks, I think. And that's kind of like one way of giving your character, for lack of a better comparison. But like, sometimes it doesn't work, and case in point with Old.
And it's not just the dialogue and the writing that's awkward as well. Like, a lot of the shots, they just linger for a bit too long. Like, there's M. Night Shyamalan's trademark twist at the end, but the twist is revealed just a bit too early in the film.
Oh, okay.
And then the film, it's almost like it doesn't know when it should end after that. It's like the twist is revealed, the movie's played all its cards, and then it just kind of keeps going for a few minutes too long. Because it just doesn't know when to end. It just peters out at a point. Like I said, it's not all bad, but yeah. It's just, it's so cringe. Like, it kind of reminds me of one of those straight-to-TV Stephen King adaptations, back in the day.
Yeah, I know what you...
Like if you've seen The Langoliers, have you seen that?
The Langoliers.
Yeah, it's. I found it very similar to something like The Langoliers, where there are bits and pieces that are quite good, but like the bad parts are just so funny and so awkward and so random that you just can't help but laugh at the film as a whole. But if you haven't watched it, I would actually recommend watching this film, because it's quite a good time, actually. But
would you recommend watching it with friends?
With friends, with drinks, yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those films.
Yeah, I would probably watch it at some point, but like, I don't generally like watching these kind of movies by myself.
Yeah,
in the sense that I know that it's going to be bad. I like sharing the experience and be like, oh, that was fucking shit.
Get some like-minded friends around you and have a watch, because it's funny. Some of it is funny. All right, and that's our list.
Yeah, that's our list. Yeah, it's still a pretty long list as well. But yeah, no, that's our worst of 2021.
What did you guys think of our list? Like, did you genuinely enjoy some of these movies? Like for me, I quite enjoyed Old, but maybe for not the intended reasons, or the reasons intended by the director. Do you think there was anything missing from our list? Do you have any bad movies that you would recommend us watching? Let us know down below. And you can also...
I think we haven't watched The Eternals yet.
Yeah, what do you think about The Eternals? I've heard that's pretty bad.
Yeah, we'll watch it eventually.
Yeah, you can get in touch with us, guys, at 2asianblokes@gmail.com, or you can join our Facebook group and be part of the conversation. Yeah, it's fun to poke fun of these films, even if you didn't really enjoy watching them at the time. At least you get some enjoyment from discussing them. So, But
yeah, I think that's it.
All right, guys. Yeah, thank you for listening. Until next time, goodbye.
See you later.